do lots of thought experiments. I remember my parents used to teach me to do thought experiments, like imagine that you've done this, okay, now how do you feel? Imagine that you've done this, now how do you feel? And whenever I imagined having a child, I had quite mixed feelings of happiness, excitement, but also fear, if I'm honest. But when I imagined not having a child, the overwhelming feeling that I had was sadness. I think it's quite a selfish lifestyle, really. That intensity of being a climber and kind of living it and breathing it like we did doesn't necessarily gel that well with having a baby. And as a result, we pushed it back and pushed it back. And I think a lot of climbers do that. I kept thinking, when I'm in my 30s, something will change. And then you find yourself, or I found myself in my 30s, I still felt like I was 25. It's just that my body wasn't 25 anymore, and you get to a point where, especially as a woman, you have to think, well, if we do want to do this, then maybe it's something we need to start thinking about. And so then the question becomes, do we want to do this? I ended up having a break in my climbing due to a health issue, and it just seemed like a good time. Once we made the decision, it was just really exciting. That was wonderful. I actually really enjoyed being pregnant. It was a wonderful experience, and I was lucky that I felt really well and I was able to be really active through my pregnancy, which I know isn't the case for everyone. But then on the flip side, when it came to birth, we actually ended up having a more complicated birth. We had a very long labour and it ended up with an emergency C-section. It's pretty major surgery, and it certainly changed the first few kind of weeks and months for me in terms of how I was able to operate. The moment he arrived, all my doubts just went out the window. It just felt perfect and exactly as it should be, and it was amazing. Suddenly you have this baby in your arms, and you feel things and emotions that you didn't know you had, and it's this incredibly wonderful, overwhelming experience. It's actually a really weird kind of dichotomy of really, really hard and sometimes really stressful, but at the same time, the most wonderful, fulfilling thing for me that I've ever done and will do. And those two things existing together is kind of like a strange combination. We love being parents, and it brings this whole kind of different dimension to life. It's like our old life still exists, but it's plus this whole other dimension spent with Isaac. I just really enjoy spending time with him, and kind of more and more as time goes on and he grows and develops and his personality comes out and he learns to communicate. What do they say? Yeah, they do. Yeah. Before getting pregnant with Isaac, we went down to Devon on a bouldering trip. And I tried this climb called Revolution is Coming. It's in this really steep cave. It's on this amazing black rock, really nice holds, quite kind of big, powerful, burly moves, quite tensiony on the feet, and it's quite long. I really enjoyed it. I didn't manage to do it. And then we got pregnant with Isaac, and obviously quite a lot of time passed, but in my mind it was something that I really wanted to go back to, and something that I kind of focused on in those early days of getting back into climbing and having some motivation to get strong again. When Isaac was about a year old, we went back down to Devon.
It took us a really long time to get here yesterday. Isaac was up a bunch in the night, so it's day one of climbing, and I feel absolutely knackered.
With tails in the air, they trotted on down, past the shops and the park to the far end of town. They sniffed at the smells and they snooped at each door, when suddenly, out of the shadows they saw... Scarface Claw, the toughest Tom in town.
The main crux for most people, and definitely what Mina struggled with most, was using this finger lock. You get this right-hand finger lock and do quite a big move to a good edge. If she got through there, she could have a good go at the end.
It's funny, it wasn't just like climbing to the top of a boulder problem. I mean, it was obviously just climbing to the top of a boulder problem, but it represented more than that to me. It really represented like more physical recovery and mental recovery, to be able to try that hard and trust my body and on steep ground on something that was tough for me before I was pregnant. It shifted something for me from feeling like I identified with being very much in this postpartum period to feeling a bit more like my old self again, and like I could approach things in the way that I might have done before. Those first few trips really showed us that we could do it, that it looked a bit different going climbing as a family with a baby, but that it worked. It took a bit more organisation, it was a little bit more faff at times, but we were doing it and we were having this great time combining the thing that we love with a family that we love. I actually gave you a chocolate, didn't I? Trade? Can you give my shoes away? You traded my shoe for a ball.
You don't understand.
I can't put that on my foot, can I?
Yeah. Again.